Bonjour. If you visit or travel to France, you might notice something. French people don't like to talk about money. More than that, it's like French people hide wealth and don't like to show off, which is the main difference with our American friends. If you drive an expensive luxury car in France, you might get very bad attention or worse, a window broken. It seems like French are quite envious of anyone who is more successful than them. But why? Why French people don't like rich?
Oui, je n'aime pas les riches. Je n'aime pas les riches, j'en conviens.
Let's start with the beginning. What is rich in France? A recent survey in France states that 7 of 10 French people don't like rich. Roughly 60% of French people answered that they don't like rich. To be considered rich in France, you have to earn at least 5,000 euros per month after tax or having 500,000 euros of estate. There are 3 main reasons why French don't like rich people. The first reason comes from the French Revolution, 1789, liberté, égalité, fraternité. The French Revolution stated a passion for equality, and it goes deep in the French society. In France, we have an egalitarian ideal, meaning that everybody should be equal regarding how they are born, their family, their name, their religion, their skills, their talent. Everybody should be equal. We are all the same and nobody is above anyone. This equality principle is stated in the Article 6 of the La Déclaration des Droits de l'Homme. The law is the same for anyone, everybody, regarding of your sex, birth and financial status. And because of this passion for equality in France, if you have a skill, a talent, something that makes you special, unique, or because you just work very hard for it, it doesn't really matter anymore. It even seems immoral or a fraud. Wealth seems therefore suspect. The common belief of wealth in France is, oh, you're born with it, you didn't really work hard for it, you're very lucky. Let's take Bernard Arnault, the richest man in the world, as an example. How French people see Bernard Arnault's success. As you know, I'm not a fan of Louis Vuitton, but Bernard Arnault is a great entrepreneur and the richest man in the world. He built an empire from scratch and employed thousands of people in France. Unfortunately, there is an anti-Bernard Arnault sentiment here in France, and he is very unpopular. He received bad press coverage, not being well enough LVMH workers, and they even question his success by saying he was born with money.
In the 90s, had the idea of a luxury group. And at the time, I was very much criticized for it. I remember people telling me it does not make sense to put together so many brands.
Et mon objet n'est pas de répondre aux critiques.
Vous en avez marre d'être critiqué?
Vous savez, en France, dès que quelque chose réussit, il y a des critiques dans tous les sens. La mentalité, vous l'avez vu depuis quelques années, est un peu anti-entreprise. Et quand en plus une entreprise réussit, qu'elle se développe mondialement et qu'elle embauche du personnel en France, ça c'est pas normal. C'est contraire à la logique ambiante de l'esprit, comment dirais-je, socialo-marxiste qui prédomine.
L'esprit socialo-marxiste.
Oui, mais je ne parle pas de vous. Hein.
Non, mais la France est marquée.
Dans l'opinion socialo-marxiste.
The egalitarian and progressive ideology are deeply rooted here in France, and because of his passion for equality, hard work, ambition or success are seen as an anomaly or suspect. And yet, only 64% of French people pay the income tax. The majority of French people do not earn enough to fit in the tax bracket. Second, cultural and religious reason. Talking about money in France is taboo. French people don't talk about how much they earn. If you ask a French how much they earn, what are their salary, they will never reply to you.
Quand vous travailliez, vous aviez quel genre de salaire?
Moi, j'avais un bon salaire, j'étais dans la publicité. Donc, c'était assez bien payé quand même. Donc, ça va.
Vous gagniez combien à peu près par mois?
Je peux pas vous le dire parce que c'était en francs et je me souviens plus ce que ça fait.
The main cause goes to the Catholicism religion. The French system is mainly rooted in the Catholic ethics. In Catholicism, the morality of money is the pathway to sin and corruption. The poor are blessed by God. There is a big difference with the Protestant ethic, which took a different route. Hard work and good deeds bring you salvation from God. If you are rich, you have been recognized by God. In the Protestant ethic, wealth is an outward sign that you have been hard-working and acting ethically. Third, another cultural reason which explains why people in France don't like to talk about money is that France was mainly a country of farmers and peasants. Farmer mindset is to keep the money in the house and never talk about it. Indeed, in the 17th or 18th century, farmers used to keep the cash in the house. They used to hide the cash under the mattress. It is such a cliche, but it was true. And they used also to avoid at any cost to talk about money in order to avoid to get robbed. There's also an historic explanation. They used to hide money to avoid to being taxed by nobles. Don't forget that before the French Revolution and even after, during Napoleon I's reign, farmers used to be taxed by nobles. And exactly the same happens for rich people, but not for the same reasons. Rich people also tend to get very discreet and avoid to show off because of the French Revolution. Aristocrats were killed during the French Revolution, and new taxes were based on how wealthy people appeared. So it didn't look good to be rich after the French Revolution, and wealthy people were also taxed. So to avoid to be taxed, wealthy people used to hide their wealth. Aside of the cultural reasons, there are also economical and structural reasons why French people don't like rich. If you remember, in November 2019, France had the Yellow Vest protest, les Gilets jaunes, against a blind rise in the tax on fuel and petrol. But what began as a fuel tax protest in France became soon a wider anti-rich movement.
De casser du riche, c'est ce qu'il disait. On va casser du riche.
Protesters were mostly low-income workers from peripheral towns, cities, and rural areas across France, and include many women and single mothers. Most of the protesters have jobs, including as secretaries, IT workers, factories workers, delivery workers, and also care workers. At the beginning, the movement were against a tax system perceived as unfair, like the fuel taxes, and seen as a new tax against poor people. They wanted a review of the tax system, raise the minimum wage, and roll back Macron's tax cut for the wealthy.
Putain, oh. Il y a une démocratie. Mais tu vas virer, ma parole, tu vas virer.
Soon enough, the Gilets jaunes protest became an anti-rich movement across France, and it didn't look good to be rich in France. And the last reason I want to mention why French don't like rich is the rising inequalities after COVID. The economic background in France is not good since COVID. In its latest report, the Observatoire des Inégalités points a picture of a country where gaps in income levels and living standards between the most affluent and the least affluent are widening. Wealth inequalities have increased since COVID. The wealthiest 10% of households own 47% of all households' wealth in 2021 versus 41% in 2010. So since COVID and because of the economic background in France, the anti-rich sentiment has increased. This is the main three reasons why French people don't like rich. and why wealthy people in France tend to hide their wealth. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check my other videos. If you love the Parisian or French lifestyle, don't forget to check my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and I see you very soon for another video. Bye.